Bowers. I'm the Center Director for the Ohio Small Business Development Center at Columbus State Community College. I want to welcome everyone to Small Business Breakthroughs. It's a series that we do on a monthly basis where we talk about issues that affect small business owners, and really we try to provide expertise, guests that can give you guidance on what it is that you need to do to build and grow your business. So today we are excited to have actually the entire team from the Ohio Small Business Development Center at Columbus State to be part of this, to share some guidance with you. And I think you're going to really find some good information today. Before we start, I want to thank, as we always do, our partner in this presentation, the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center. The DEC is a great resource in Central Ohio. Normally, I do this session from the DEC. Today, I'm actually in my office at Columbus State, but the DEC is a great resource, and I want to introduce Chaz Fertel, who is the manager in charge of the DEC. And Chaz, you want to say a few words about the DEC?
Great. Thank you so much, Mike, and the rest of the team from Small Business Development Centers. We really appreciate the opportunity to always work with you all and the wonderful connections and wonderful work you do with all the potential and growing entrepreneurs in the Central Ohio area. The Dublin Entrepreneurial Center now is in its 12th year. We were founded in 2009 in the city of Dublin, and we regularly host anywhere from 130 to 160 businesses on site with drop-in hotspots, cubicles, offices, that type of thing. And very proud that we've graduated over 160 businesses from the DEC since 2009, and over 90% of those businesses are still in business. So excited for what we've been able to do in some small way or maybe great way to help those businesses to succeed. And certainly SBDC has been a great part of helping those businesses be more sustainable and successful over the time. So again, we're happy to be a co-host of these events. And anybody that's interested in talking to us and maybe finding the DEC as a home, be happy to talk to you. I'll put my contact information in the chat. So Mike, back to you.
Great, thanks a lot. And you know, it's interesting when you say 2009. I mean, I remember when we first started, and I think we did the first training session there during the grand opening. But you know, it's amazing how time flies, and the DEC has had a huge impact on the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the area. And it's been a solid partner for us. It's been a solid partner for the tenants and the other small business owners, through that entire time, and especially during the COVID and the different things like that. So if you are a small business owner and you are looking for some space or something of that nature, you may want to touch base with Chaz, because he can give you some guidance. They have a variety of different options and opportunities there. And even if you are not looking for space, it's still a great resource for you. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. So we're going to go ahead and get started with today's presentation. I would say that if you are here for the session, go ahead and put any questions that you may have in the chat. Bruce Walters from our team will be monitoring the chat. Bruce is the director of this particular program, and Bruce is also one of our business advisors. So go ahead and put any questions you may have into the chat. We will look to get to those. Also, you may want to just even introduce yourself in the chat. Go ahead and put that, because it's a good opportunity to do some networking and connect with some other people too. So go ahead and use that, and we'll look forward to any questions you may have and try to provide you some feedback. So this particular session, what we wanted to do, and we do this on a pretty regular basis each year, to kind of say, okay, this is things that you need to think about if you are coming up on the end of the year. You're looking at the next calendar year. So we're looking at 2022. So what is it that you could be doing now or early next year to kind of jumpstart your business going forward? And that's really what we're looking to do today, to have that conversation. I'm excited to be able to share the expertise of our team at the Small Business Development Center. I've already mentioned Bruce Walters. Bruce is our newest business advisor. However, he's been working with small businesses as part of our team for, I don't know, Bruce, maybe the last 5 years or so. So Bruce is typically, if you call the office in the past, trying to look for guidance, Bruce would be the guy that you talk to. Also, I have expertise here. We have Kevin Hammond, who is a business advisor for us. Kevin brings a lot of experience, and Kevin, can kind of do it all. But I think that the thing that I always like about Kevin is he's excellent at really supporting early stage businesses to kind of launch and move forward. But he's also really strong on the on market research tools. He's also really strong in the financials. So how you can take a look at your business, look at the budgets, and maybe project out and think about where you need to go from there. Tonya Wilson from our team. Tonya is really our marketing expert. Tonya has been with us since 2007, and Tonya does all the marketing for the center. And Tonya is also a expert when we are talking about marketing for clients and how they can move forward, whether it's traditional marketing or marketing relating to social media. She also does a lot of our social media training. So Tonya, we're excited to have Tonya here. And then Ellen Harvey is one of our business advisors, and she is the manager for the Kiva program here in Central Ohio, and I'm going to have her talk a little bit about that later. But she's also really our go-to when it talks about funding. She is an expert in supporting businesses to get business funding and in a variety of different ways. So look forward to getting that information and how we can move forward from Ellen there. So what I want to do is I'm going to start out with Kevin and have Kevin kind of jump in. And, Kevin, can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you think a business should look to, right now to kind of maybe look at some of their weaknesses and maybe correct those weaknesses, and maybe even look and say, hey, I'm really good at this. How do I enhance those types of things? What should they be doing to kind of start to move their business forward?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. So I think the first thing a business should do is, pick a time when they are going to be less distracted. We'll have less phone calls coming in, when they can really think about these things and be honest with themselves. Because you really got to, really think deeply about how the business has been this past year, and essentially do a, like a 360 analysis of all parts of the area. And again, that involves being, honest with yourself and finding that time where you can somewhat have a clear head and so forth. And, a couple other things, and once you get to that point there, it's really looking at different things in your business that you can actually measure. And always a good starting point to measure how you're doing and, what's working and what's not is looking at the financials. What's been going on, what kind of, cost increases or have they been having? What's been going on with, any types of funding they need, how has cash flow been? So really being honest and looking at all aspects of that business. And again, part of that's going to involve doing the analysis, because you need some types of things to measure, to know where you're weak at. So I think that 360 kind of screening, again, scheduling that time to actually really think about it. And again, you got to really, be real honest with yourself on, what's going on with the business, what's some areas that, need fixed that you've been trying to avoid. And then, from there becomes, okay, all right, I've identified those problems. Now I got to figure out how to fix them. And that's where putting some type of a strategy together to work on those particular issues is one of those key things that they can first do.
Do you have any thoughts or tools that people should be thinking about to kind of do that 360 analysis? Because sometimes it's difficult to kind of see the forest for the trees, and that's really what we want to do at this point. You know, they're every day of the year they're like slogging away. Hey, I'm doing the work, which is great, but at some point, and I think this is what you're saying, you know, get away and take a look at the entire picture. What would you kind of recommend they do to kind of get specific in terms of, you know, looking at themselves and being honest with themselves?
Well, I mean, there's a couple ways they could, you know, kind of do that, you know, analysis, that deep dive. We through the SBDC, we have different kinds of like business tools and so forth. One of those happens to be a tool called Growth Wheel that actually has something in there called a 360 screening, where, you know, it really gives you that opportunity to look at, you know, those 4 different main areas in your business and all those components that make up those areas. And then you're essentially doing a self-assessment, you know, a business assessment, a current analysis assessment of where you are in all those areas, you know, by essentially, checking a box. Okay, I'm pretty, I got maybe 4 out of 5 in this, but I maybe just 1 out of 4 in this area. And then it really, again, it's forcing you to look at that entire thing. So I think this 360 screening is great. That, and I think just, you know, combined with some type of a financial analysis. So, we have tools for that as well. A business owner could always have their accountant do that as well. So we tend to use a tool called Profit Sense that, allows us to, plug in the numbers and compare those numbers to other companies in those same industries. So one way to know if you're doing well compared to your peers is by essentially benchmarking yourself, your financials and so forth, to what other companies like yours are doing. And that way you can know, okay, am I pretty close to where they're at? Is there a big gap between some of these ratios or some of these costs versus what would be normal for particular industries? So, there's several ways to do that, but those are 2 particular tools that I think would be great for businesses to really do that full assessment.
Great. And, I think you brought up a great point too. And I want to kind of point this out as we go through here. Everything we're talking about today, I feel is important for the business to kind of move their business forward. However, you don't have to do this alone. The Small Business Development Center, what we do is we do business advising. We provide advising to small business owners to support their business growth. And that service is free of charge to the owner. So we have that available to you. Kevin mentioned some of the tools that we have. So, we're not saying, hey, go out and somehow do a search and find Growth Wheel and do this. You can contact our office and we can provide that and give you guidance and help you through that. So I would encourage you to do that. Also, don't forget to continue to put some information into the chat if you have questions, or, feel free to introduce yourself as what it is you do, what your business is, so everybody can get a sense of who you are as an attendee. I want to stick along that same path that we've been going, and I'm going to jump to Ellen. And Ellen, so Kevin talked about doing this 360 assessment of the business and things of that nature. But, when we start to think about debt, or funding in general, it doesn't have to be debt, but a lot of businesses will, hey, I need to get a loan or I need to get funding. And a lot of times that is not until they have to have it. So it's not that I'm saying, okay, I've got a growth plan and funding is part of that. It's oftentimes I have a opportunity I got to take care of now, or I got a challenge I got to take care of now, and I need a loan, and they call you and they say, can I get $1 million and in Kiva? And that doesn't work. So what would you say what would you recommend they do in terms of, one, looking at their current debt situation or their current debt and equity situation, but as looking forward to how they need to think about funding opportunities going forward?
Well, I think that Kevin actually is dead on as far as looking at a business's situation and then really taking the time to pull away from all the things that distract them to concentrate on what's really going on with their business. And a part of that is during certain calculations that help them in assessing where they're at. Assessing as far as assets over their liabilities, income over their debt, income over their sales, and helping them to truly understand how much they are actually profiting from each dollar that they generate. These calculations are not only going to help them understand how their business is operating, but it also helps position them for funding as well as they gather a greater understanding of those calculations. He had mentioned that we have tools like Profit Sense that help in calculating those numbers for clients, but there are some easy formulas that as a small business owner you can do yourself. I will drop in the chat here a great article in regards to, is your business healthy? Use financial ratios to find out, that you can reference as you're looking at trying to understand what we call debt service for your business. And that's simply nothing more than the profit over the expenses, right? And from that, lenders are looking for a certain coverage that basically that you have a certain amount of dollars to cover each expense that you have. So a 1.2 ratio is typically what they're looking for. So it's not a hard calculation, right? So it's simply, like I said, your profits over your debts to show what you have available to be able to repay your debt over a period of time. So that's one thing that you can take a look at. So no differently than if we look at it on a personal level, where you look in your bank account and you say, do I have enough money to pay my bills, right? So it's the same thing as you're looking at evaluating your business. Do you have enough profit coming in, enough money left at the end of the month to be able to pay your bills, not only for that month, but going forward? So that's one of the things that we want to look at as we're looking and preparing for the new year, preparing for just understanding our businesses, as well as preparing for looking for any type of funding. Another one is assets over liabilities. And so that is everything that you've invested in that business, right? So the money you've put in, as far as what we call that as owner's equity, assets that you've purchased as far as equipment and vehicles, and then assets as far as inventory. All those things show a great value for your business, and that weighed against your liabilities, debt that you may have incurred to purchase those items, debt that you may have out there as far as bills that you owe for creditors, loans that you've taken out. Also is going to show the strength of that business, allows you to see where you're at as far as if you're going too far in debt and not building up your assets enough. And it's a great tool to also show the lenders that you are aware of the fact of how much you are going into debt versus how much you are actually building up the company with those assets. And remembering that the assets is also that profit that you make at the end of every month, the end of the year, that you're reinvesting back into the company. So all these different tools that we use, Profit Sense and so forth, these different calculations to help evaluate your business. You can too as well. And if that link that I provided can help give you some guidance. Kevin had also mentioned the growth wheel. Growth wheel is a great tool that we use, and it's something that we can sit down and go over with you to help you assess your business, which is also something that you want to do when you're looking at funding. Is you want to be very aware of how your business operates, not only on a financial level, but from the business concept of what you put in place as far as how your business operates, to the customer relations, to how you interact with your customers, to who your market is, how you're reaching them, to the organizational structure. Who is your team? What are their skill sets? What do they bring to the table? How do they make you different? How do they set you aside from any of the competition? And then operations. Are you effective in what it is that you do? All those things, those four key things there, are a part of Growth Wheel, and it's broken down to other categories that we can talk and walk you through that help you to assess strengths and weaknesses in your business to help you build on your weaknesses and to become stronger, and to look at your strengths to say, you know, I'm doing that right, and to capitalize even on that. So all these things are part of positioning you for funding, position you for success. And then you can also take advantage of looking at my loan packaging class that is now a webinar that you can take advantage of. It is posted on our SBDC Columbus website, sbdccolumbus.com/events/ I'll drop that in the chat as well. We're updating that calendar, but it is there for you to be able to watch and learn how to put a loan package together. So all the documents that you need, tips and questions that you can ask the lender, as well as we review a document checklist to help you better understand some of the documents that you're going to encounter as well.
Great, thanks. That's great. And I really like the concepts of, you know, really positioning yourself to move forward, because again, that's where you're going to be the most successful. I mean, those businesses that have some sort of plan, that have, you know, really looked at themselves and look at what they need to do, that's where you're going to be the most successful. And obviously things pop up all the time and things of that nature. But if you've taken an opportunity to kind of look at your business and do some of these types of things, that's going to definitely help you. So the loan packaging link is in the chat. Also, I want to mention that this session today will be is being recorded. Will actually be on our YouTube channel, which is Ohio SBDC. You can go there and check this out. And I believe the loan packaging session is also currently on the YouTube channel, so you can go in there and jump to take a look at that also. And we also, on our website, for those that are a little bit earlier in the process, we have a online business startup model that you can find in the toolbar at sbdccolumbus.com, and it can be a great resource for you, even if you've already started. You know, if you want to go through and kind of think about different pieces and parts maybe that you missed or you're having challenges with, it's a great resource also. So let's jump to Tonya. Tonya, can you talk a little bit about kind of the same vein, but maybe getting a little bit more specific when you're taking a look at, let's say you have a website. So we've had some great guests so far that have talked about some of the online marketing. We had Matt Adams from .the Creative. We had Rob Maccabee on a couple of months ago that was talking about, you know, marketing and how you can create sales and stuff like that. But if you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, this is what I did this year, this is what I kind of want to do next year, how would you recommend that they think about looking maybe at their website, their social media presence, and in starting the ball rolling about thinking about how they should look at that going into 2022?
Well, if we're looking at making sure I'm not on mute. You know, if we're looking at like your website, one of the primary things that you want to do is kind of always start from a point of making sure that you're putting your best foot forward, right? And so starting out with, you know, potentially assessing your website and assessing the, you know, effectiveness of your website. And so when you're doing that, one of the things you'd like to do is have an objective person actually take a look at your website. Have them go through maybe someone who's not as familiar with your business or has not been on your website. Give them some kind of like some exercises to do. Ask them to find certain things in your website, find an event, find a product, make a purchase, or at least, you know, go through the actions of making a purchase. What you want to determine is that, you know, is your website easy to use and navigate? You know, are you meeting the primary purpose of your website? Like, is it clear when someone goes to your website that they, that, you know, what you're trying to accomplish is obvious, you know, and so, and what actions you want your client to actually take. Do you want them to sign up for an event? Do you want them to make a purchase? Do you want them to sign up for a newsletter? Be really clear and making sure that's there. Make sure you have a good design. You want color and layout is very important. And so, and it can be something that makes people not actually spend much time on your website, especially if the colors, you know, aren't easy on the eye, maybe if they're conflicting. Make sure it's reliable. Make sure your website isn't going down when someone clicks on all your different links. You don't want them to get the dreaded 404 code. And so make sure everything is working and accurate and everything is up to date. So I think, so that's one of the number one things about, you know, making sure your website is kind of designed. And then also in terms of social media, you know, you would want to look at social, you know, look at in terms of your social media, making sure that you are again targeting the right individuals, and you know, looking at like the number of your followers, you know, if you're getting reactions and getting, you know, getting content and actually getting referrals from your social media pages to your website.
Great. And those are great points, and especially on the social media piece, because I think we see a lot of people that they go into the social media and they start doing this, but they don't really know why they're doing it. They're just doing it because they think they need to do it. And they're not thinking about the conversion. They're not thinking about, what do I want this to accomplish for my business? And, you know, really with the social, you want to get them back to the website. And to your point earlier, is the website appealing? Is the website doing what you want it to do?
Right.
And, you know, that's all part of something that you can be doing, evaluating. And, you know, I really like the idea of having a third party go in and take a look at it. And, you know, maybe you give them a scenario saying, hey, you know, go to the site and act like you're wanting to buy something, or, you know, whatever it is that you want it to do, and see if they can do it. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, you end up with maybe a nice looking site that not really not accomplishing what you want, or you've got a site that's outdated and needs a refresh because it's still not doing what you're wanting to do. So I think those are great points.
Yeah, and I don't want to be remiss in mentioning one of the primary things I push always with social media is making sure that you have a plan for social media. Over the years, when I've been meeting with clients, if a client has a you know, an effective product or service, you know, and I know there's a market for the product or service, typically if they're not being successful in their marketing efforts, it's merely because they don't have an intentional plan. You want to be very intentional about what you want your customers to do as they move through the process. That's why I do a social media event here, an event called Social Media Strategy, the plan before the post. And so what you want to do is actually create a plan before making any posts. And so really think about your customer journey. You know, what is the process that your customer goes through before they actually convert, you know, actually becoming aware of your product, developing an interest in your product, you know, then converting, and then also thinking about ways of how to retain, you know, current clients and create advocates of those clients. And so how they navigate through that journey is something very important and something that you really want to think of. And so it's very important to have a plan, you know, and actually set goals for yourself in terms of social media. So in the first month, I want to get, you know, 20 new followers, or I want to acquire, you know, 10 new sales, right? And so, and then create your post to actually move clients down that customer journey to actually achieving that goal.
You know, that's another great point. When you're thinking about these things, think about it in concrete terms about what you want to do. When you're setting goals, what do you want? I want 10 sales, or I want, you know, this. So, you know, don't just say, you know, something that's kind of abstract or whatever. You know, that can be maybe part of it, but I mean, get specific. And I really like your concept of saying, okay, what am I trying to do? And my plan is that, you know, this month I want to get 10 new sales. So that then should be driving off of everything that you're doing to get to that point. But if you don't say 10 new sales, then, you know, anything's going to be going to work. So that's a great idea, and I'd encourage everybody to jump on that. As Tonya said, she does a marketing program that'll be held in Q1 next year, and she also does social media strategy type sessions. So I'd encourage you to go to our website, to the events section, and as we start to get 2022 up on the schedule, take advantage of those things because they are free of charge and can be a great resource for you. So want to get to something a little bit different, and I want to ask Ellen, because she is our Kiva manager. Ellen, can you kind of explain a little bit about the Kiva program, the microloan program? I really feel that Kiva is the only true microloan program in Central Ohio, and how people can use this, you know, kind of what it is, but how people can use it. And even if they have funding, you know, how can they kind of incorporate this into what they're doing?
Yeah, sure. So Kiva is a crowdfunding platform of which, as a small business owner, you can engage your family, friends, and community to invest in you for a minimal investment of $25. And the thing about Kiva is something that Tonya was tapping into as she was talking about marketing, and you're looking at your social media and having trying to reach a certain target market, having certain reactions and so forth, and having some content. So Kiva, because it is built on your social capital, utilizes your social media to be able to reach your customers, to be able to reach those in your community, and those that could be potential investors. And so though Kiva provides funding at 0% interest and no fees and up to $15,000, it is a heck of a way for a small business to leverage it for a marketing opportunity. It gives you something to talk about on your social media, allows you to highlight things that are going on in your business. It allows you to engage the community. It allows you to potentially gather new customers at the same time as you're gathering investors to support your business. The whole process takes less than 45 days. The application process, you can go to the SBDC Columbus, go to our Kiva page. There's a link there for you to be able to apply. As us being the Kiva hub, we assist you through the whole process. The application is basically information about you, some personal information, but then your story as to why you started your business, why you're seeking funding, what those funds are going to be used for. In that, what we call your profile, you're going to put your links to all your social media, Twitter, Facebook, your website, so forth. So again, it gives you the ability to connect all those things for someone to see everything that you're present on in the social media arena. And then that profile is evaluated by myself and my colleagues if need be, if they need to help you with writing content. And once it's approved, then it goes on to Kiva Underwriting. Kiva Underwriting tells you, this is what you are approved for. Let's say it's $5,000, and you begin the process of rallying support and using your profile, which is provided to you as a link, to post on all your social media, to even use through your emails to gather support. And that's that minimum $25 investment until you reach your goal of 5,000. So you're meeting a certain amount of personal investors, so your friends and family. Let's say that's maybe 5, and then you go into what's called the public crowdfunding, of which your profile then becomes live to all of those investors that are on the Kiva platform, where they can now invest in you. And that's not just individuals, that's other business owners like yourselves, that's corporations that want to support small businesses and organizations. So I mean, it really not only provides just an ease of access to capital, because it doesn't have all the barriers like traditional banking. It's not driven off a credit score. It's not driven off of collateral. It also allows you to expose your business to different opportunities and different potential clients for you as well too. So it's great not only for funding, but like I said, for marketing as well. and just really a great tool. It can be used for-profit and nonprofit businesses can use the platform. It can be used for businesses that are just getting started and those that are seasoned. It is a minimal amount of funding, right? So it only goes up to 10,000, and Kiva does determine what you are approved for. However, if all you need is a little bit to get started, it's the perfect tool, a funding tool to use. And again, that's for existing as well as startup businesses.
So yeah, that's a great tool. And in the chat, Bruce has put the link to our website with the Kiva information on it. So if this is something you're interested in, go ahead and click that and take a look at what's there. Also, it appears that on our event page, you can actually go and check out a recorded version of the Kiva information session too. So if you want to check that out, and then as we get into 2022, Ellen will be doing some live information sessions also. And Ellen's here to support you if you're interested in doing it. So it's not an issue where you just go in and apply and, you know, kind of hope that you're doing it right. I mean, Ellen is, her desire is for you to get funded. So she's here to help you do that and work you through the process. And we've been really successful. I think the numbers over the last year, if you want to kind of touch on that a little bit, you know, we've had a lot of interest and a lot of people coming to Kiva.
Yeah, since we actually took over the program at one point in time, and the original founder of the program had passed away, and so it kind of sat idle for a while. But we took over the program about a couple of years ago. Even in the midst of the pandemic, we still had several businesses that were coming to the platform to seek funding, and so we've doubled those numbers over the last year. And we're looking forward to 2022 and having even more interest as we go into the new year. Kiva closes down for a short period of time, seasonal. So right now, access and being able to do applications on Kiva will not reopen until January the 2nd. However, you can still go onto the platform. You can still search your application. We can still have conversations about applying. And then, as Mike said, I'm here to assist you as far as the process with Kiva, as far as helping with the application and helping you to get started as far as campaigning. But I also handle the collections and management and servicing of the accounts as well too. So when you run into problems or difficulties, we're here to assist you to help you look at ways to help you generate more sales so that you can keep up with your payment and all of that. But also our team is so great in that we have Tonya and we have Bruce that can help with marketing strategies for you as well. So as you're looking at this campaign, they can talk to you about how can you utilize this, how do you want to market it and position it on your social media and some of your other sites, as far as helping you be successful with the program as well too.
Great, thank you. Kevin, let's jump into some specifics here regarding developing kind of pro forma financial projections going into 2022, because if you're looking for a loan, the bank's probably going to look for projections and things of that nature, but it's also important for your business, even if you're not looking for funding, to think about what your game plan is going forward. And how would you recommend people kind of jump in there and, let's say their existing business, they've got some, results from 2021. What should they be doing to kind of set the stage and create some sort of budget and projections for 2022?
Yeah, sure. So I would say the first step is now, again, assuming this is an existing business, the first step would be to make sure that the method and way they've been keeping track of their numbers has been effective over the past year. Because if it hasn't, then it makes it hard to do a forecast if your numbers haven't been kept as good as they could be kept. So I think the first thing.
So Kevin, if you have the shoebox with the receipts in it, that's going to work.
Well, no, that won't work. It definitely won't work. No, that won't work. And it's, some folks just use Excel and so forth, but, they usually admit that really isn't, as effective as it could be. And the key thing with keeping great records is knowing yourself, and then picking some type of a system, an app, whatever it might be, whatever method is going to work for you, because there's lots of choices out there to keep track of those numbers day to day, but not every choice is perfect for each person. So it's kind of knowing yourself, what do I need and what am I actually going to use? So that would be the first step is, let's make sure we're tracking everything. We're running all of our expenses through the business bank account. Yeah, that way if we always have that set of records there. So, so assuming, so if we assume that that's already been done pretty well by a business, then that means that their numbers for 2021 are pretty accurate. So that makes it a lot easier to take those accurate numbers and then look at that projecting forward. And then projecting forward, different things are going to come into play there. We would be looking at, what types of sales categories may you be adding? Might there be some things that you may take away just because they're not as profitable as other categories? A profit and loss forecast is, it can be a challenge, but typically the most challenging part of that is projecting sales, because you typically should know your costs and expenses fairly well. But depending upon how long you've been in business, what's going to happen with sales could be a little bit more of a challenge. So it's really looking at, in some effective ways you can look at determining how sales may, ramp up, increase, fluctuate. There could be seasonalities to it. But breaking down, looking at what your business offers, and rather than saying, okay, my business, it has maybe 3 different things that we offer, and in totality, we make $1,000. Well, it's a lot easier if you say, well, out of those 3 categories, this category has made this much, this one's made that much, and so forth. And then you're taking those categories and projecting those sales individually for those categories. Again, that just makes it a lot easier to do that sales forecast. In doing the sales forecast, the profit and loss projection, I should say, it's also a great exercise because it's really going to force you to look at, how have you been spending money previously, and what type of a budget could you put together now? And that's also going to make you look at things more closely than you probably have. And that you're going to be able to look at, okay, all right, I probably didn't need to be spending money on this, but I needed to maybe spend a little more money on that, and so forth. So, that solid budget leads to that focused spending that a business has to be aware of.
Hey, Kevin, let me ask you a question along those lines, because I think there's a great question in the chat that I think applies to what you're talking about. So as you're putting this together, the question is specific around, where do you find the ratios, the numbers that the bank typically looks at? Now, I know it varies by industry, so you may want to touch on that too, but what they're looking for, where do they find these numbers? Where, if they're doing, a quick ratio, what is the bank looking for quick ratio wise, so that they can think about, okay, this is where I got to get my business to. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And essentially we call that benchmarking, and, we help clients with that, but the banks also are going to be looking at your numbers compared to what is the standard thing in that particular industry. So the first step for a business to find out what their industry ratio standards are is first figuring out what is their industry code. And that's something called a NAICS code, which is the North American Industry Classification System. And you can search that on the census website to try to figure out what yours is. Then from there, once you have your NAICS code, now there could, some companies may have 2 NAICS codes, maybe even 3, because maybe they're doing things that don't fit in a neat NAICS code. And then there's different ways you can find those benchmarks. The Columbus Library, I think, is a great resource for that, because they have great tools on their research site. We did a previous video on the research tools that is on our YouTube page to check out there. So that's one way to find them. Other way to find them, and obviously we can help get those for you as well. But honestly, organic Google searches, you could type in your type of business, industry ratios, industry benchmarks, those kind of things there. So that will help you to, again, benchmark what you're doing with what your peers are doing. And those benchmarks, those ratios, they're coming from actual companies out there, your competitors. So again, that's one way to make sure you're on the right track. And again, the bank's gonna know if you're way off versus what the industry is, and it's not going to help you even if you don't need funding, if you're subpar in performance from your peers from a financial perspective.
Yeah. Ellen, do you want to kind of jump in on any of that? If people are looking for funding, how do you go about working with them as it relates to their business plan, and specifically trying to get it to fit to the standards of the financial institution?
So as far as the financial institution goes, as we look at the numbers, of course, we want all the just regular content, right? So their registration, their bank account information, their taxes and all of that, just the standard documentation. But when we're looking at that bank financing for the businesses, be it either for just a working capital loan or equipment purchase, or even for buying a building, is that we are going to start looking at those financials, right? And so what we're looking at is that coverage that I spoke about earlier, that 1.2% debt ratio coverage. And so that link that I dropped in there in the chat of the "Is Your Business Healthy? Use Financial Ratios to Find Out" is a great tool that they can use. In there, there's probably 5 different calculations. And again, it's like income over debts and assets over liabilities. And it's really simple to be able to actually use that. And a lot of that information can just be pulled right off of a balance sheet. If these forms and this terminology is foreign to you, again, these are things that we can help you with. If you are a sole proprietor, 100% sole proprietor, or a 100% limited liability company, your Schedule C of your tax return is actually a profit and loss statement. And so it's very similar to like a balance sheet. And you can use the information off of that to see if you're close as far as being able to provide sufficient funding for repayment of a debt. Really what lenders are looking for, just to break it down to make it in layman's terms, is they want to see that your business is profitable, right? They want to see that you have enough money coming in to cover any debt that you're going to acquire over a 12-month period of time. So if you are going after some funding and the payment is $500 a month, they're going to want to see that you have at least $12,000, just double it, $12,000 in net profit. It's really that simple. If you are going for funding and you present to us, and we can evaluate this for you, a tax return where it shows that you're in the negative, the likelihood of you being able to get funding is not good. We want to position you that you are, before you even start going for funding, is that you are paying down debt and you are increasing profitability so that you can show more net profit. And Kevin had mentioned times about seasonability in your business. So if you are a food truck, for instance, and you know that you're more profitable during the summer time, and your financials look way better than any time during the fall and even winter, where you may close down for a while, right? So there's no income coming in then. You want to look at funding during the time your business is most successful and thriving. So in that scenario, you want to look at funding during the summer. Your bank statements are going to look strong. Your profit and loss is going to look strong. Your quarterly statements are going to look strong. And we want to be able to paint that picture. So the bank is looking to see that your assets outweigh your liabilities, meaning that you're showing profitability there. They want to show that the income you have coming in is not all going out, so that there's some profitability at the end of the month after you've paid all of your bills. And then they want to see, when you file your taxes at the end of the year, that there's some income there that's left over that you can reinvest back in the company, and that you have reinvested back in the company. And so if you are looking at and preparing for funding and you're wanting to evaluate your financials to say, you know, even am I in a position to do so? Those are some things to look at. Make sure that you're always in the positive. And if you're not, again, you can come to us. We can evaluate those with you, and we can help give you direction on how to start reducing your debt. That might be looking at refinancing your debt to a lower interest rate. That might be looking at extending the terms of your debt, meaning that you're looking at a longer repayment time so the payment actually drops. That may be just having you start taking some of the money that you're earning and reinvesting it back in the business and paying some of that debt off. All of that helps in reducing your debt. As well as looking at your payroll, making sure that you're not overextending yourself as far as employees that you have engaged in your business, that you are using the talent that you have in your business strategically, that maybe there's other people that can do numerous jobs, and therefore you can look at minimizing some of your staff and your payroll costs. Again, that helps in with profitability. As well as looking at and reviewing some of the services that you pay for as a business owner, right? So looking at your Wi-Fi, looking at your cell phone, looking at those things that you're paying fees for that you can possibly reduce those costs. Again, that's reducing your debt and raising your profitability. Any money that you can get back from less money you're putting out is going to give you more profit. And so those are some of the things that you'll do as far as positioning yourself to be in a position to be able to look at funding. In addition to looking at the pricing of your products, right? Looking at, and again, refer to that sheet that I gave you, that link, because we want to look at profit margins, right? So looking at what you have going out as far as and the cost of creating a good or that you have, even a service, so even your time is valuable, to see what the profit is. And even in just increasing your price for a service or a product just a little bit can greatly increase your profit. It can make a difference when you are seeking funding. So all these things you can start looking at and evaluating on your own, but you can then still come to us for guidance and help you see clearly and be able to articulate the picture to the lender when you go to sit in front of them.
Absolutely. Thank you. Great points. What we'll do also, there's some great links on the in the chat, and Bruce did put the link up to the video that Kevin did with Columbus Metropolitan Library recently about library resources. So that's a video that's at our YouTube channel. That link is in the chat. We will put these links into the show notes once we put this up on YouTube next week. So be sure to check those out. So what I want to do is I want to wrap up a bit here and start to close out. And what I want to do is I'm going to ask each one of the folks that are here with us, what is one thing that you would recommend the business owner, the person who's on here today, or the person that maybe is watching this on YouTube later, what is one thing that you would recommend that they do between now and say midnight tonight that can start to get their business moving forward? And I'm going to go ahead and start with Tonya. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, I would say one thing that you can do today, before midnight, is to sign up for Google Analytics if you haven't already. Google Analytics is a great tool to use for tracking and measuring your marketing efforts, and that's really key. You can't achieve results, the results that you're looking for, if you don't know how well you're doing, and or don't know what adjustments to make. So I definitely recommend highly that you sign up for Google Analytics.
No, absolutely, because that gives you a good idea of what actually is happening, who's coming, where they're coming from, the links and all that. So I mean, that's a great recommendation. And again, if you're having problems with it, or you're having problems integrating it into your site, we can assist you to going forward. And Bruce has put a link in the chat for that also. So great tip. Ellen, what is one thing that you would recommend that folks do today that can give them a little jump start?
Well, what I'm recommending is that you just take some time and you're just going to do some planning, right? You're going to take some time and you're going to think about what day in the new year am I going to set aside, and it could be, January 1st, that I'm going to specifically start thinking about my business and my plans for 2022, and figure out what that looks like. For me, when I need to focus on something, I'll go book a hotel room for a couple of days. And so I'm not distracted with everything that goes on in my household, with me wanting to wash the dishes, with somebody needing me as far as in my mother role, where you can just really sit down and concentrate on what you want to do and do some strategic planning about your business. Now, that might be revisiting your business plan. That might be even creating a business plan. But you want to put some thought into and evaluate those numbers, those links that I gave you to evaluate those numbers, to think about, what is your goal that you want to accomplish in 2022? Do you want your sales to go up by a certain percentage? Do you want to open up a new location? Or maybe it's that you're just getting started and you want to launch by a certain date. Well, you've got to plan all of that. And so setting that time aside with there's no distractions, that you say, this is for me and for my business, is what you need to do in the next, up until midnight tonight, is book that hotel, book the room at the library, send your husband or wife somewhere so you have with the kids, so you have time that you can concentrate on your dream, so you can be focused going into 2022. And I'm even going to drop in the chat a link to a business plan template for you.
Okay, awesome. That's great. And Kevin, what would you recommend?
There we go. I was muted. So what I would recommend is first taking out a piece of paper and writing down 3 tasks that you've been maybe putting off that you can do. You'll write it down tonight that you can do tomorrow. And it could be as simple as, I'm going to call that strategic partner that I've been putting off wanting to call. I'm going to call these 3 customers or potential customers that I've been maybe putting off. I'm going to call my accountant or reassess my accounting system. But 3 things that you could do, that a task list that you're going to do tomorrow, just taking out a piece of paper, do it later in the day when the phones, stop ringing and so forth. But, a task list, and really that's a great thing to do every day, right? As an entrepreneur, you get up next day, you got a lot of things you got to do. And then where do you start, right? So another thing, out of those 3 tasks, look at those 3 tasks and think, out of those 3, which is the one I'm least likely to do, and put that to the top. So that's my recommendation.
No, those are great, because again, I think it's important that you get it written down. What is it you're wanting to do? It's great to think about it. It's great to, have it in your head, but you got to get it down on a piece of paper, get on a computer, get it someplace where you can see it. And when you write it down and when you see it like that, you're going to hold yourself a little more accountable than it's just in your head. And, I think this is good. And then you kind of move on to something else or whatever, and you never get to it. So I think it's important to do those types of things. And I think those are great tips. So, so with that, we're going to wrap up today. I want to thank Tonya, Kevin, Ellen. Great information today. Everybody, do not forget that we will be putting this up on YouTube. It should be up some point next week. We also have the other small business breakthrough sessions on YouTube. And I would encourage you to go check those out, because we had some really great guests there. They're going to talk about some of the same things that we talked about today. And I also want to thank Bruce Walters, who has been, again, the director of the program, and he's been putting a lot of great stuff up in the chat. And just know that, again, Bruce also can provide you guidance. He has background in marketing, but one of the things that I think I'm going to have Bruce come on and talk about in the new year is this organizing yourself so that you can move yourself forward and get yourself away from the urgent into the important and things of that nature. So, Bruce, thank you for this today, and thanks for your support on all these programs that we've been doing going forward. And also want to thank the Dublin Entrepreneur Center. Chaz, this is a great program. We appreciate the DEC being a partner with this, and we look forward to some really cool stuff that I think we're going to be able to do in 2022. So again, thank you very much for that. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close. Thank everybody for coming today. And don't forget that the Small Business Development Center is here for you. You can go to our website, which is SBDC Columbus. You can get a lot of great resources there. You can visit us online, or you can email us, and we can connect with you. And we are here to support you. We are here to help you become the successful business and have the successful business that you want and that you've dreamed of. So thank you very much. And we look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks.